Good evening. I'd like to start the Shaftsbury School Board meeting on September 11th. And we will begin with a moment of silence for the 9/11 incident. Okay, thank you. Next thing we'll go to is the citizens' comments. Is there any citizen comments? All right. Thank you, Tim.
Great. It's out to me to pass this along. I want everybody to see that.
Yep.
This is a postcard we received from Jim and Gail from their trip to New York. There's a little passage on the back they wrote that they had a great time, so I wanted to pass it along to the board so you can see.
That's nice.
Is that Gail?
Jim Harwood? I don't know
Oh,
if
Jim
we're
Harwood.
in a uniform.
You play police officer?
Yeah.
Gives you something to shoot for, Jeff.
Looking forward to
man.
retirement.
Oh, God.
I'm not even thinking about that.
Oh, jeez. Okay, the next we'll go to the financials. Treasurer's report, I did not, you got them now. Okay.
July, and I
Thank you.
apologize, Mary Lee, on the back side of that one is apparently incorrect for August. And this one is the corrected version.
Okay.
Sorry I'm late.
No, you're fine. I did get your message, so you're all set. Jen will need a July one. Is that July? Yeah. I'll just here we go. Any questions on the treasurer's report?
Want a motion to accept, Frank?
Yep.
So moved.
Okay, your second?
This is on both of them?
Yes, for July and August.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor on the treasurer's report?
Aye.
Jen, you want to?
Yep.
Okay,
Fine.
good. Unanimous. Okay, we go to the budget transfer request. And that is to move $23,200 from account number severance retirement to the other account, principal for retirement reimbursement. And that is for Jim Harwood, I take it?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a motion? Do we have to? Yeah, we have to take a motion on that, don't we? Yes, we do. Okay, so I need a motion
So moved.
to approve. Okay, your second? Jen?
Discussion?
Okay.
Second.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, when I read it in the accounts, there's two budget lines in question. One is for, it looks like in the teacher's severance retirement. That was budgeted for about $33,000 originally.
34.
34, yeah, 33, 34, and we've incurred expenses of about 10,800 on that so far, that particular line,
Mm-hmm.
which leaves the balance of the 23, which looks like is what they want to move.
Yes.
What is the $10,000 that we've incurred on that line so far? And the switch, I would assume, is for the principal's retirement, the gym. Is that the case? So if we move it to the principal's retirement, maybe the 10,000 is gym also, and we can move the balance to it. But if we move the entire amount, there's nothing on that line, and there's got to be teachers that are retired or retiring.
Yeah.
But there's a mix-up in the budget, and I just want to. I'm often cautious to move budget line items. It's not necessarily okay to overspend, but you're bound to overspend on some and make some mistakes in budgeting. And if you move line item budget dollars mid-year, it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. That's my. So what is the $10,000 we've
You're right.
spent? And if we move the $23,000 from essentially the, I think it's the teacher's portion or the education portion to the principals to cover that, what are we missing there? Well, I mean, there was some thought to put that money there in the beginning.
No, it's a good question.
Before
Do
we
you
mo-
have-
before we move
Run
it.
it by Rick,
You want that bolt?
just so we know what the 10,000 is for?
Sure,
I don't think
Okay.
anybody should
unless
use
you,
it in the problem.
you don't have information about
So,
it,
so I
just
would,
that it
I would
was,
request if the people that made the second and the first motion withdraw it till we get more information.
That's-
But I
that's
can't do that when there's a motion on the board,
Right.
so.
No, that's fine.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay,
I withdraw the second.
very good.
Can I just make a couple of quick, I'll make them quick.
No, go ahead.
The, I think that any retirement severance money that we budgeted to be paid out this school year, we must already know about at this point. Any actual expenses
Yes.
we're going to incur.
Yeah.
The line item that we're proposing moving the money to, severance retirement account, already has an expense booked to it for $23,290 plus a little bit. So, let's see, the money's already been spent, A, and B, we're proposing moving an amount of money to that account that's a little bit less than the amount that was actually spent. It seems if we're going to go to the trouble of, through the exercise of actually covering that, it should be enough to cover the expense. Otherwise, why do we have to go through this little song and dance?
Yep. Okay, so we have that.
So how do we follow up with that?
I'm gonna have,
So Rick will,
yeah.
I'll get an explanation.
If,
Okay.
yeah, if Rick was here, we could
Yeah.
get it now,
I thought
but
Mary was
I don't know
coming.
what it is, so.
Maybe she will, yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Okay, so we're gonna hold on that. Okay, next, number 3 is tuition agreement between North Bennington Prudential Committee and Shaftsbury. I know they're meeting tonight, I take it? Okay, so I'm waiting to hear back, because we did give them a proposal. I forgot to bring it with me tonight, but I know that Donna knows somewhat of it, but we're not gonna make a decision tonight anyway until they meet and we hear back from them. So if you could just give them a brief update on it.
We submitted what we had for an agreement, and they had a couple of minor changes that they wanted to make, mostly in the wording. One was about, and this was about the process, they wanted it to be open to having the payment made in installment. The way it was written was like one lump sum payment, and that was one question they had. Could it be changed so that it was in installments for any, especially any SVSU school, and maybe have it be a slightly different character for other schools. But they wanted, for their purposes, because their funding comes from the state in certain allotments, that it's more agreeable to them to have that be in, I believe it was 2 installments. Is that correct, Frank?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
2 installments instead of 1 lump sum. And then there was one other slight change in terms of the, how the funding was paid. Was it for students
Special-
with an IEP?
Yeah, special ed,
And
yeah.
that it just broadened it a bit. Was it just a very slight change in the wording that,
Yeah, I wish I brought that with me so I could,
yeah, there's still a few things going back and forth
Mhm.
with Patty Page, who's correcting the wording to
Yeah.
be, to meet everyone's needs. So the very latest copy, I didn't really have in my hands tonight.
I know that the board has given me approval to sign it, but I want the board to look at it first before I do that. So, I don't think I think it's gonna be okay, but I'll make sure it gets emailed to all of you and make sure that you look at it and just email me and I'll give a call to Catherine and make
So
sure.
are they reviewing something tonight at their meeting?
I believe
Supposed
so,
to.
yes. They were
Yeah.
going to change some wording that they were questioning, and to see if that was what they intended for the changes tonight. And then they will get it back to us.
Since the
Okay.
school year's already started, are there any North Bennington students who've enrolled here?
Here's one.
We have one, right? Which they have agreed that they will pay the tuition. There's no question about that.
Okay.
It's just that we are trying to get the agreement in place for long-term and have it meet everyone's needs.
Okay. And our enrollment is 243 now?
242.
242,
Yeah.
well, that's good. Okay, Tim?
The dollar amount that we're requesting from North Bennington, is it the same as anybody else tuitioning in?
It's set by the state. I believe it's 9600.
I'm gonna say about 96,
Yeah, 96,
almost
I think it was.
$9,700.
It's set, the tuition rate set by the state for each school district.
So it would be the same as if it was another Shaftsbury student.
Right.
Basically.
Yep.
I think that's your question.
Same as if somebody from outside of Shaftsbury, somewhere other than North Bennington, wanted to tuition in?
Yeah, the tuition rate's the same.
Be the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna, the template that we have, it should be the same for any other school that's gonna, that wanna enroll their kids here. Because we're gonna use the same thing for any other school when we decide what this is gonna be.
Why do we need a special agreement with North Bennington about tuition?
May I speak?
Go ahead. Yep.
Typically, other schools wouldn't send children here if they were public schools because they would keep their own students in their own schools. And parents or individuals cannot tuition into a public school because then there is no backup for costs that would be incurred by this school district because just the parent would be paying the tuition. So say that student had a disability and then needed special services, there would be no contract that would say the parent was responsible or whoever was responsible. So typically, it would only come from a school district that did not have their own school. So there aren't too many of those.
I know we've had a tuitioning in policy standing. I guess it's never been used, I guess.
Not very
Right,
much.
no. Okay. Okay. No others, so we will, unless somebody else has something other, okay? All right, we'll go to the consent agenda. There's the minutes, and there's the warrants. We'll take them all at once. Okay, the minutes of August 14th.
I have one thing on the minutes.
Yep.
Line, I think it's 28
Okay.
on the back side. Well, maybe 26, 27. The back side of the minutes, page 2.
Two, okay.
I guess it's 26. For our AYP in reading but not in math, it says all cohorts, but it was actually just all students in general, white students, and free and reduced lunch population. It wasn't all cohorts.
All students. Run that again.
White students and free and reduced lunch students.
Okay, anybody else on the minutes? Go ahead, Richard.
Were there any other cohorts?
There's cohorts, they break it down as far as ethnicity.
Yeah, but did Shaftsbury have any other of those cohorts that were broken out?
Well, it's hard to explain. Yes and no, because
Yeah,
it was less than
gotcha.
40.
Yeah, less than 40.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Okay. All right, we'll go to the warrants. Number 6, it's for $1,082.35. Number 1003, it's $8,330.80. Number 1004, it's for $72,374.36. And 2002, $344,964.35. Anything on the warrants?
I had a question actually
Yeah.
about trivial. It's on page 4 of, I don't know, it's a reimbursement to a teacher for purchasing pencils. So, we do buy pencils for teachers that we
Yes.
supply.
Yes, we do.
teachers
We often
with
get them
pencils.
much cheaper at a dollar store or something else. Teachers can find them much more expensive than can do on a supplier. So they'll, if they're in a pinch, they'll buy pencils themselves, get reimbursed from your budget.
If they're in a pinch, meaning if they,
Or if they find them cheaper. Yeah. I mean,
Are you saying if we run out of pencils?
I know it's only the 7th day of school right now, but my guess is in that case it was they found it much cheaper than where suppliers and vendors that we've used in the past.
Doesn't every teacher have an account basically that they get so much money a year to spend? I know they do in the
Yes.
middle school, okay.
Yep.
All right, so why wouldn't they take it out of that, or?
That's where it came from.
Oh, okay.
That's where it
okay,
came
They'd
from.
be
all right.
reimbursed from that.
Yeah, it
fund.
came from that
Okay.
account.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it wasn't from any other accounts, from their classroom account for the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it, I guess, that the teachers feel that they need to even be shopping, looking for a better deal on pencils than they might be able to get from, you know, whatever the supplier is.
That's true too.
Oh, that could be.
Standard offered pencil, like something that's a little more stylish.
Good, thanks, Jeremy.
Birthday pencil,
Yeah.
make the
Yeah,
announcement. Back to
that makes
school.
sense.
Yeah.
And one more comment on the warrants before we go.
Okay.
And this is something I brought up in the past. It's been a long time since I have, and I don't expect, really any action on the board, but there is a cover sheet on this voucher that's unsigned. And at one point, it's probably more than a year ago now, I made a motion, which wasn't seconded by any board members, that I thought that it should be signed. Paraphrasing the last paragraph, it says, "I certify the claim is just and correct, and the services and materials herein are represented have been received during the period listed. All items are properly coded and not in excess of the budget." This is something that, I have history in the board. I was off for a few years, but I was probably on for 8 to 10 years, then off for 2 or 3, then back on for this 3. And I've seen in the past, I've seen it signed in the past. It's why I abstain from voting on any warrants, and it's why I'll abstain tonight. So just pointing it out, if any of the board members think that there's something to it, they can think about it and speak up when they think so. I'm not going to. I put the motion out once before and
I understand.
didn't have a second.
That may change in
You
the
wanna do
future.
that again, Pat?
If another board member wants to put out the motion, I'll certainly
Well,
consider
you put the
seconding
motion
it.
on, I'll second. We'll get your board vote, and
Okay.
we'll go on from there if you wanna.
I make the motion that we have this document signed prior to approving warrants in the future.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'd be hesitant, and I remember this well,
Mhm.
that I think we talked about it more than once, and,
Yeah.
and I know you have thought about it carefully. I guess I'd be hesitant to vote in favor of that without hearing from from Rick's office, because I know he had an opinion on it, and without him here tonight to reiterate that, I guess I wouldn't want to.
We can still vote on it, but if we could, like I say, that may change in the future. There may be some changes coming, and understand, what you're saying.
That's fine.
And I know the last time he had said, it's quite a process that they have now. I guess it goes through, 6 or 7 different people in the process, but, we can take it up if you want, but right now there's a motion and a second on the floor. So all in favor of the motion?
I just feel that in this day and age with everything being electronically processed, that I'm not sure a signature would make any difference in the voucher, so.
Yeah,
I
Larry?
agree with Pat that it's just oversight, it's just good housekeeping.
Mhm.
I'd feel comfortable, just having an initial, somebody take responsibility that this is a document that they put forth in good faith,
Yep.
having done their due diligence on it, and that they're willing to stay that. And,
Yep.
it doesn't take much just to do that, so.
Yep, understood. Yep. All in favor of the motion?
All right?
Opposed?
Okay.
Okay, motion
What
fails.
was that?
What did
She was.
Well, I was thinking about my options.
as they were running out?
With the arrows
Was there
pointing
an
at Jen.
extension there?
Well, it can come up again. Next time we have Rick here,
Yeah,
so.
right, well,
right.
I'd like to hear what Rick has to say.
Okay.
So
Motion
I,
fails.
yeah.
So-
3-2.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All righty. Now, did we,
We gotta vote on the vouchers.
thank you. I'm sitting here getting confused. Anyway, okay, so we have the minutes and we have the consent agenda. All in favor of the consent agenda?
You want a motion
To approve it, yes. We haven't done it yet. To approve the consent agenda.
Right, they haven't done it yet.
Motion to approve.
I'll make the
Thank you.
motion that we,
He's already done it, you're gonna second it.
Vote on it.
Thank you. All right, all in favor of the consent agenda? Okay,
Abstain.
extension, that's Pat.
Abstention.
Okay,
Please note that. in
all right, facilities.
Just some update on some things. We have, on the east side here, on this new wing, we have new drainage and a sidewalk going along this building. Bowden Landscaping, or Bowden Paving did a nice job with the sidewalk, and we got some new, I think it's now two 4-inch pipes for drainage. So that back area should be a little better when we get the storm coming later tonight. The heating units are being installed. They're all in place now. I think that Hayden's coming in on Saturdays to limit the disruption to classes and continue to install those. And they're also continuing to work on the handler updates on this side of the building, so it's not 150 degrees down here and minus 32 down there this winter. So that'll be good. We got a tentative, I know the water line's been up for discussion a couple times. Jay did hear from, was it Otter Creek, I believe? Got a tentative high-end price, which is much lower than Jay thought, around $40,000 for the water line, paving, everything. With them doing all the work, all the preliminary work, running the line, everything. Jay was really thinking it was going to be closer to $60,000. So again, that's a high-end, very rough estimate. It's not just an idea to go from as we move forward into the budgeting process. Other than that, I have nothing else on facilities.
Now, is that something we have to go out to bid?
I think if it's over a certain amount, we have to go up to bid.
Well, yeah, if it's over, I think it's 5,000 or 10,000, something like that.
A little higher than
Is it
that.
15?
15,
I think it's
Maybe it's 15, okay. I know
I
we've
wanna say
changed it over the
15.
years.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
So it has gone out to bid.
it has not yet.
Oh, it
No,
hasn't.
I
just got
She's just got a
getting an
quote
idea.
from.
They did
Idea.
Otter Creek did the initial
Okay.
quote for us to give us an idea what it would cost.
Okay, any questions of Jeff? Hearing none, okay. Principal's report.
Opening day was last Tuesday, as you know. The highlight of the day was the PTO got a group called Dinosaur Rocks here. It was definitely more than I thought it was going to be. A gentleman came from New Jersey. He brought at least 25 to 30 fossils. One highlight was the 9-foot leg of a dinosaur that he put together on stage with the kids. And then, of course, the other highlight was that they got to go through a box of sand and they got to bring home 3 fossils of their own, which every kid was going home at the end of the day with a little bag of shark teeth or fossils. So it was talked about all week long by parents and teachers and students alike. So it was pretty positive. And the first day went really well for me. I had a great time. It was very busy, but it was fun. It was great having the kids in here, bringing the life back into the building. And it's been a good start for me in this position. Student enrollment for this year, an update. I have a form that you all have seen quite often, I think. We're at 242 at the present moment. It was as high as, I think, 245, and then we lost a couple kids last week. And
you said 242?
242.
Okay. I thought you said 232.
Nope, 242. We were at 236 last year, at the end of last year. So we're still up, 6 kids, 6 students. Any questions on the enrollment?
Okay.
All set with enrollment? All set? You're all set with
Just wonder if
enrollment?
there are any questions on the enrollment piece.
Okay.
And every classroom is comfortable with the amount of kids that are in it. Did we have to
Don't
get?
have a choice.
I know. But did we have to open up another classroom for this? Did
No.
we? No.
That'll be in 2 years,
Okay.
when the 5th grade class graduates. Yeah.
What do you mean you don't have a choice?
She asked if everybody was comfortable.
Oh, okay.
They're all Shaftsbury kids except for one, and that was in 4th grade, which we have a lot of room, and so we're comfortable.
Can I just ask Jeff?
Yeah.
Hypothetically, and just puts you on the spot.
Yeah.
It was a question that you can't answer, but the kindergarten class has 35 in it now,
Yes.
and last year it had 33. It looks like. Let's say 3 more 4 more kids had shown up from Shaftsbury residents on the first day of school, or or you'd known about them ahead of time, and the average class size then had been 19.
Yeah.
What would we do? Would we just? I mean, would we find another classroom? I guess that's what I'm wondering.
That's a possibility. I mean, we have that capability. But we have to have the funding and for a new teacher and
Right.
and those services.
Yeah.
It's one of the decisions we have to make at that point. If that came across, we would decide that we wanted to make those 3 smaller classes. But we would have the space. We could do that if we had to.
And we have in the past used some paras also,
That's
but
not-
it's gonna depend on that man right there, so.
I mean, I can't speak for the entire board, but I don't know how they feel, but if you feel or your staff feels the need for, let's say, an extra para in a kindergarten class, even at the level that you have now, for whatever reason, that's what we're here for.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we're here for, because we can make those types of decisions.
Appreciate that.
That's all. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
mean that.
I really
But it's a board. That's
Yeah.
just me speaking. But
Yep. No, I appreciate
No,
that.
that's true, we've done it.
we've done it in the
Yeah.
past. You
Yeah.
know, even where there wasn't like I don't even know the right word, like a special needs student.
Right.
You know, because
Just another set of hands.
you're just another set of hands. You know, in some classes makes the difference of teaching or
Especially in
not.
kindergarten.
Yes,
And so it can be in any grade.
I've learned that this year.
Anyway,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions on enrollment?
I think you're all set.
Okay. We have our open house scheduled for September 26th. We'll be here from 6 to 8. Parents can come in and meet their child's teacher and see their classroom and go through the day, what happens. So we're looking forward to that. Safety and security, I know that's been on the docket for quite a while. I had a chance to talk with the staff during our in-service week. I read them that word for word. I gave them the report that was done by Mr. Polnowski last year. They felt the same way as I think we all do. We didn't want to turn Shaftsbury into a lockdown facility necessarily. Some of the ideas that they came up with and they thought would be helpful was maybe phones in the classroom. Jay's looking into getting a quote on that and what that would look like. Right now we have intercoms where a teacher has to go to the front of the school, front of this room, in front of the door to use the intercom, which puts them at risk if there's a threat in the school. And so maybe phones in the classroom could ever remedy that. They could call the office of some kind or outside world. We're also looking at possible radios. I do have a quote that Jay got a few years ago for getting 25 radios and a central intercom, so every classroom could have a handheld radio instead of using the intercom. That was roughly for $2,300 for that. We also talked about the locked doors. The doors have to lock from the outside. That presents another issue if they're not locked all the time. But other than that, installing pull-through glass, installing a whole walk-in entranceway where people have to get buzzed in and go through different levels. The staff wasn't in favor of that, as I am not either. So I'm be happy to try to find quotes for different things if you guys are.
So you're still working on that?
The quotes for the phones, yes. Yeah, Jay's been out working on that. He's trying to get a hold of the person, so.
So it is. We are locked. So the outside doors.
The outside doors are
like
locked.
the lobby doors.
Yes,
locked, or
yeah,
something.
we're using that buzzer system that we installed last year.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Like somebody in the office can hit a buzzer and it'll open the.
No, they have to walk around and open it. It's just a buzzer to let Colleen
so
know
like a ring.
somebody's
Okay.
here.
It's a doorbell.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And she goes and lets them in.
Would that,
Is,
what Pat, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. You're
Well, I'm just wondering what Pat was alluding to, be something that we might want to look at just to make life easier on the office. I don't know how many times a day they have to stand up and go open the door.
I didn't even think of that. I was just asking what we were doing.
No,
But I like
thought of it
but I
either.
like your
I
thought.
thought of it
But I like your
either,
thought.
so, yeah.
we talked about cameras, putting cameras outside so Colleen could see who's at the door before she opened it, or putting cameras around the school, outside and inside. That's an option
Well,
too.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't personally like the idea of cameras, but so you can't, someone in the office can't see out the door there and see who's buzzing the
Unless you
doorbell.
peek out the window more. Yeah, peek out that far.
Now, she has to get up from her desk and go out, and then, well,
Yes.
the cure for that is have a buzzer right at her desk.
That's what, yeah, that's
You
sort
can,
of what
but-
it was.
But you have
Yeah.
to
But
be
at the
able
same
to
time,
see.
I'd
Right,
want her
no,
to see
no,
who
I
she's
know.
buzzing in instead of just
Right.
buzzing anybody that rings it, because she'd have to go around at
Sort of
least.
defeats the
Well,
purpose.
that's
look
where
up.
you'd need the camera. If
Yeah,
you had
if she had a camera, she could see who's
a monitor right there.
Yep.
And you have a camera there just for that,
Just for
to see
that.
who's coming in. That,
Yep.
that shouldn't be a
Yep.
big deal for that. But, also, the other thing is Jay checking with Central, or there's probably people over there at Central Office that could help him on the phone issue too. Just so,
Okay.
I'm sure if he hasn't, he probably should,
Okay.
because there's gonna be other people that may have already know.
I think the district as a whole is doing an audit. Is that right? Safety
Of
audit?
each building.
Each building.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right, good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, all these measures are nice to think of, but you have floor to ceiling windows in both sides of the school that, you know, isn't gonna stop anybody from doing something that they really are meant to do,
Yeah.
you know, want to do, so. The buzzing in and all of that is a nice step, but we just don't wanna live like that, right? We stop there.
So I
Okay.
can,
It's always a balance.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is
Our
always.
so I can bring a quote with
Caution
the
and
phones, what it would cost to put phones in every classroom and run lines, next meeting if you like. I'm sure we have it by then. And I have the quote for the radios here if you're interested in that.
Like to
That's a
see
good
if we
idea.
get everything, yeah.
I like the
maybe.
radio idea
Mhm.
because then it
What-
could be, it could
What
be
is the
accessible.
scenario that we're protecting against with phones?
It just gives the teachers a communication, a way to communicate besides the intercom system. Because we have a lockdown, every room's locked down, the teachers aren't, nobody's allowed to leave their rooms. It's a way for them to communicate if there's a problem in a room or something like that. It's just a way to communicate. Otherwise, they're kind of isolated. Or they're going to the front of the classroom, in front of the door to use the intercom to talk to the office, which puts them at risk.
I would offer that another possibility you could consider, although it does have downsides, is a cell phone booster. I have one in my house. It picks up a signal with an antenna outside and then rebroadcasts it, amplifies it and rebroadcasts it inside. I suspect every teacher probably has a cell phone. It might be cheaper to just get a cell phone signal into the building than to buy phones. The downside, of course, is that kids have access to cell phones in the building.
Well,
Not
that's the
having
real
not
world.
having a signal in the building, I've always considered positive.
I like the radio idea because then you can take it outside with you. if you
Portable.
need- Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We have some radios now that we use for some high-risk classrooms and for recess students and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Uh-huh.
But it's just a handful, I think, 7 radios, so it's not enough for every class.
Okay. Okay.
Adequately yearly progress report. I met with an AOE, Agency of Education representative, on Monday and Tuesday. We are, obviously, we're in year 1 of school improvement, so we are under the Green Mountain Star School Improvement Plan, which is an online plan. Later this week, I'll be creating a team of teachers, myself, to look at some indicators that the state has put forth. We're going to make some plans and some goals around those indicators and how we're going to address AYP, and specifically mathematics, because that's where we did not meet this year. But we're also going to look at literacy in other areas because our action plan is also expired, so we have to do that also. So that's something we have to have a draft of the plan to Catherine by, I think it's November 6th. And then by the middle of December, we have to have a plan to the state and how it's going to, what it's going to look like. So that's the process we're going through the next couple of months, and I can bring an update every month of that.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff? Okay. Superintendent's report.
I just wanted to follow up a bit on Jeff's report about the AYP and the annual yearly progress. We do have some supports for Jeff, and I think that he's really has all his details on that and is looking forward to using the Green Mountain Star, which is really a tool. It's kind of a technology way to find the indicators that are most important for your school and ways to define that. But also, we have some funding in the Title I program. There are some benefits, so that we will be having extra funding for some professional development here, especially in math. And also, for you to know, I think I mentioned that, but there is some funding for data teams, or we could call it your school improvement team, to actually pay for some of the teachers' time to be putting in that extra effort to build your school improvement plan. So when you need some support with that, let me know, and we'll work on that. So it's a continuing process. It really is not just at this school. It is in almost every school in the SU now. If they have enough numbers to report, as we were saying, if it's less than 40, we don't report all those scores. So those small schools are going to be okay. But for the rest of us, we'll all be in school improvement, because by the year 2014, we're all supposed to be 100% proficient, and you all know what that means. So we are all working on school improvement plans, which is a good thing. I think one of the main focuses is a multi-tiered system of support, which means really monitoring each individual student's progress and making sure there is growth and improvement in their achievement. And that's good for everyone. And then building in supports and interventions where they are needed. So Jeff's working on that, and looking at his schedule and looking at the assessments they're using, not to add to things, but just to kind of justify why we're doing things and how we're doing things, and then moving forward to improve things.
Okay.
Fran?
Yes.
I do want to give you an update. It's not on the agenda, but I want to give you a public pre-K update.
Mm-hmm.
I met with Karen today. We originally slotted 13 students through the lottery last spring for public pre-K. We identified 10 more students that we could possibly serve, up to 23 Shaftsbury pre-K students. I know our budget has $40,000. I'm working with Rick right now to try to streamline that funding so that we can reach all 23 students. If we do reach all 23, there will be only 4 students we identified that parents have chosen to keep their students in another facility that we wouldn't be serving. So that's some pretty good numbers. I think it'd be a big benefit if we can find a way to service all 23.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I want to give you an update on that and give you a heads up on that.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Yes.
But just following up on Donna's comments on AYP and the challenges in getting your hands around what the numbers mean, and we as a board
It is hard.
understand that, I mean, conceptually, having 100% proficient in a population the size of ours is just not going to happen. But I think the public doesn't get it, and there were a couple of columnists in the local paper that demonstrated that. So thank you for the good follow-up article
Thank
you wrote
Dave.
about one of them.
Yes, it had to be said.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I have no chair's report. You got your FYI, as future meeting date is Wednesday, October 9th. You have your budget status and the SVSU student enrollment. There's an executive session for ESP contract. Do we need to have it? The ESP contract?
We do.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep.
So I need a motion to go into executive session.
Did you want to ask Rick any of
Oh.
those questions?
Oh, yes,
Yeah, there were 2.
yeah. I forgot what they were.
The signing of
Usually
the,
not that high on the list.
Yeah.
signing of the warrant.
Oh, yeah, that's one of
The
them.
pencils.
Oh,
And the 10,000.
No, that wasn't a Rick question.
The line item transfer to the retirement account.
It's from the teacher's retirement account to the.
that's right, the
retirement account.
23,200. And Pat had a question about the $10,000.
Yeah, the reason for the retirement transfer is because when we built the budget, Jim asked that I not identify the fact that he was retiring at that point in time. He didn't want that news out there, so we built it into the teacher's retirement. Pretty sure you guys knew about that at the time, but maybe not.
I think we did, but I just couldn't remember what it was.
Because I think he gave you a pre-heads up on it, but he just wasn't prepared to let everybody else know at that point in time, when that, early December, when that was being built. What was the other question?
Well, there was 2 questions. There were, the original budget for that line item and the teachers was $34,000. Yeah, I'm catching it without you knowing it, so. And we've expended 10,800 of it so far. So the balance is 23, that's what you're looking to move. What was the 10,800 spent for actually? And
One teacher who retired, who had enough.
Okay.
That's the value based on the collective bargaining agreement.
that's fine.
If they've accumulated their,
Not Jim.
No, it's,
Somebody else.
it's a
And
teacher,
by moving that 23 to essentially Jim's line,
Yeah.
principal's line, there will be no more expenditures than that ever.
no, all retirements per collective bargaining agreements have to be expended by the end of July. So there'll be no more monies hitting either of those lines.
So my question, Rick, was, are we, I guess, why do we have to do this? Is it a legal requirement? The money's already been spent? Or it shows it's already been spent
Yeah,
anyway?
because of our requirement to
Yeah.
report our statistical expenditures to the state at the end of every year, we're required to report based on the functions, the principal's office, the art, music, general classroom, phys ed.
But, so the money has been spent at the end of the year, no matter.
Oh, to move the budget, you mean?
Yeah.
Right, to actually move the budget.
Yeah, if, you don't have to, it's better budget control, from my perspective, if you do, because you know that you have to live within that bottom line. You don't have to. Technically, you can deficit spend. We never want to do that. And we only do that under unusual circumstances, and I have never done it in my tenure. But to try to keep to that bottom line, whatever you guys are, 5.6 million bucks or whatever that number is, we adjust within the budgets when over expenditures are made. So that's our monthly budgetary control, and for you to have oversight over that, so you know that we don't go over that bottom line. If this isn't a good example, because those two lines will never be expended again. But for example, if we went over on books, you know, for some reason we had to buy a bunch of classroom books and we went over $3,000. If we didn't adjust for that and take that $3,000 out of somewhere else, theoretically that could be spent somewhere else. At the end of the year, you could be $3,000 over at the end of the year. So that's why we move those budgets on a monthly basis to cover those expenses.
I just have to comment. I understand and respect your position. I disagree with it.
I know.
Yeah, I'm going to say it.
You might agree
And
with
the reason that I disagree with it is that it isn't good budget control. It is important to maintain the discipline to not go over the bottom line budget. But it's important also to understand what line items you've overspent and what line items you've had to cut back on over time. When it gets lost in the wash, if you will, if you move the dollars from one budget line to another and you say, geez, every budget line was perfectly on budget, we're perfect. We never are. There's always going to be the key is the bottom line shouldn't change, and even that can change. That can change, but you need to understand, you know, the reasons why you budgeted the line in the first place, and the reason you overspent, and what lines you came back out, took the money back out from. We can agree to disagree.
Right, but you clearly have the track. When you look in the adjustment column, that's how we track those over expenditures and the under expenditures.
Yep.
And we do it with reasoning, we do it with logic, and the board has, you know, the memos to track that, and that's what the auditors are looking for.
Okay. The other, you all set?
Did you, I'm sorry I was late, I was at another board meeting that took more time, my time than I expected, but were we gonna have a conversation about your tuition agreement, or is that done? Because
Well,
I am carrying a message from another board meeting, and I don't know what action you guys took, whether they authorized you to do.
wanted to wait until, to see what the agreement is, because I know there was language changes in it. And I told the board I wanted them to see it.
You guys didn't get that?
Catherine sent it to me, I forgot to print it off, so I don't have it here with me. And Donna doesn't have one, so I wanted to wait until they'd seen it, what the final thing is gonna be before I sign it. So what's the next step?
Well, I was hoping this wasn't gonna last another month.
Right.
So I was hoping you'd seen this ahead of time. The only open issue that is left is the frequency of the payments. Your policy speaks for, and the agreement speaks for, single payment in advance.
Right.
They do not plan, nor will they make a single payment in advance. They want to pay 4 installments closely aligned to their receipt of their state aid, so it doesn't affect their cash flow.
Do you know whether the towns that routinely have to send students to other public schools,
All across the board.
there isn't a standard?
You decide something,
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody does.
Okay.
Because there's no consistency among anywhere. Some pay all in advance, some pay in arrears. I mean, at the end of the day, by state law, they have to reconcile with you.
Yeah, so when they make that stance that they will not pay, that they have to pay the 4 installments, is that something that we have to agree to? No.
We don't have to agree to it, but is that the only hang-up with that
But
agreement?
how long are we not going?
Exactly,
How long
I
are we
know,
not
but
going to
it-
agree?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Are they actually paid in 4 installments from the state?
Actually, 3 installments. September 10th, their tax receipts, which are December 10th roughly, and then April 25th. I don't think it's April 10th. I think they moved it to April 25th.
And what's their proposal for the 4 installments?
Their proposal was September, January, March, and May.
What's your recommendation?
It's gonna come down to that.
Yeah.
You know, I think a payment in September and January reasonable, 2 payments. I mean, they've got all their cash flow with their tax receipts in December. The state aid they receive in April is minor. You know, as a fallback position, you could clearly do, 3 installments, September, January, and May. But,
If the student were a Shaftsbury student, would be receiving money from the state 3 times. You just said what the dates were, Rick, and I won't ask you to repeat them.
September,
either.
November, and March.
But I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop. There are no block grants associated with kids anymore. All that state aid is anticipation of tax collections.
Right,
So, I understand what you're saying, but the terminology, I
know
just,
you want, don't want to
I don't want someone to,
agree with something that wasn't.
I don't want someone to think that there's a dollar associated with a kid's head.
Right, yeah.
In this case, it actually is, because it's tuition, that someone's actually writing the check, but from the state, that's not the case.
But in any
The
case-
state aid is September 10th, December 10th, which is really the tax collection day. And then April, it's either 10th or 25th. For some reason, I think it's the 25th. It's off the 10th schedule.
Seems to me it would make sense to have 3 payments coinciding with those dates. Seems to me.
And if you're generally comfortable with that, the request I would make to try to move this thing forward, because we're really down to that. We've gone back on a couple of other little things. It's not a big deal. Is to authorize Fran to finalize the negotiations based on those parameters and to sign the document so that we don't have to wait another month.
Yeah, but we'll see the document before he signs.
Yeah, I apologize you haven't seen it. You should have. I'll make sure you see it in the morning. I apologize for that.
So we wanna do the 3 payments, is that what I'm hearing?
And then you can, if you see something in there, get back to Fran ASAP that you want him to negotiate.
We're talking about one student
They're
at the
all,
moment.
you're making their personalities.
Right, but you have to understand too, that we're,
Yeah, Abby's a great kid.
and I explained this to North Bennington, that, because they didn't quite understand, because I said, listen, we generated this document generically. I mean, if there's someone up in Sandgate that was working in Bennington, driving by, that wanted to drop their child off here, we're not looking to create an individual document for every school district that chooses to send somebody here, so it's a generic document that pretty much covers a lot of them. If, to their defense, to North Bennington's defense, if for some reason you have capacity and you bring 30 kids in from North Bennington next year, that'll be a financial burden on them to write that check all at once up front in September. I mean, that would be. Right now, the one child is not that big a deal, but, from their point of view, this turns into a lot of kids. That could be a burden on our cash flow. We'd have to go borrow the money to pay it.
That's reasonable.
Okay.
So we're all comfortable with that?
Well, did you want to
I'd like a
Do you have a,
Fran
do you need a
would be-
motion on that?
I think they gotta authorize you to sign.
Well, we already done that.
Oh, they've already done that?
And I didn't want to sign anything
Oh,
until
okay.
they seen the document. I said that tonight, so.
So
All right.
who will be sending the document to us by email? Fran or
Someone
you?
in my office will send it
Yeah.
to everybody.
Okay, okay,
Well, I'm hoping it's not me, but
yeah,
if it has to be, it'll be me, but someone in central office will send it.
okay.
Are they
Okay.
gonna adjust it? Is Patty Page gonna adjust that document?
Oh, no,
Because-
that's been.
But if they're gonna put the three
If we're gonna put
payments
three
in?
payments in or have that
They
discussion.
want to do it in four.
No, you're not gonna see that adjustment. We gotta have that conversation. I don't wanna change that language until they agree with it. You know what I mean? I don't wanna keep spending an attorney's fee, 3, 2 payments, 4 payments. I mean, I need to get that
Oh,
between,
you wanna talk to them first?
I need to get Fran and Ray to agree on whether it's 2, 3, or 4 payments. And then I'll get the language changed, because I don't wanna keep spending an attorney at $165 an hour to write a
Or
two.
do you want it when it's changed to be what it's going to say? You know,
Well, at the
I
end-
can forward it
now
to
and
you.
understanding that that's gonna be the change.
At the end, you're gonna see the final document.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll see it fully executed.
Okay. So is there a motion to?
I'm good. I don't think we need
Or
an.
I don't even think we need one, do we?
No, they've already authorized it.
Yes, okay, all right, so we're all set. Okay, one other question that they had is, on these warrants, it's not signed on the cover sheet. Pat had brought it up last year. He made the motion, there was no second, so that failed. We had the question tonight, there was a motion, there was a second, it failed 3-2. And Dave wants to hear from your office why we don't do that, because I told him that there was a process, and it's pretty extensive, but if you can explain it.
Yeah, no problem, and it's a redundancy issue from my perspective. I mean, a payment to go through our system starts at the building level. Typically, someone even below the principal will make a request, it goes through the process. The POs, depending on what exactly is being purchased, could go through as many as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different approvals, depending on what's being, purchased. It then goes to our AP department that turns it into a purchase order and sends it off. So we've got electronic signatures all along the way in that approval process. When the product is received, again, it starts at the building. Typically, the building admin assistant is going to say, yep, this is all theoretically happening electronically. Some of it doesn't, because we haven't got some of it finalized. Yep, go in, receive these 5 pencils, you're okay to pay. That authorizes AP to physically write the check. It goes to the treasurer, who reviews it, gets signed off on, it comes to you guys for final signature. It's just frankly an extra step that I don't think is needed, and it's not a crisis to me, but I know it bothers some.
So, Rick, what would it take for you to sign this, I guess? And I don't mean I'm not suggesting let's bargain something here, right? But what do you have to review everything before you sign it? I mean, is that what your sense is, that you would want to look it all over a 6th time, or add yet another layer of?
It's just the timing. I mean, if I'm gonna sign this to get it to you guys in advance in a packet, I mean, typically when I'm going through this thing is 2 hours ago before I'm walking into this meeting. That's not gonna satisfy what you guys are looking for, because if you wanna see it in your packet ahead of time, theoretically, that's done a week ahead of time. And I know it sounds trivial, but it's time consuming. It's just another step in the process that, that we have to put into already a pretty comprehensive internal control process.
And I'll say that when Pat first raised the issue, I was sympathetic, but when the auditors reported on their findings with the system we use and didn't have any issue with it, then I felt more comfortable with the way that it's done.
Okay, anything else? Need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Speaking of the
ESP contract?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you need us to sign stuff? Warrants?
Oh, yeah, thanks. You still on the committee? Cool. Your kids still? Oh, I said kids, both of them.
Need to think about it?
Larry
No,
made a motion, I think,
executive-
and I think Dave.
Executive
or
session.
Dave seconded to go
I
into
don't know that we
executive
took a
session.
vote.
Executive
Then
session?
Mr. Pembroke interfered with Mr.
Yeah, I got him off track.
Yeah.
Train of
All
thought.
in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Yeah, unanimous.
Yeah.